Oxalate dumping and the carnivorous diet. Dr. Robert Cassar, eartheracademy.com. Have you ever heard of oxalate dumping? Okay, now let's talk about this. Oxalate dumping is something that is, well, not really understood, is because we don't really know a lot about any diet. We're just experimenting as we go along, individually, anecdotally, one person at a time, trying out different diets that you're either pushed into when you're younger, the standard American diet, and then when you get maybe a little older, you say, shoot, I want to start eating a little more healthier. I want to start bodybuilding. Maybe I'm going to start eating the bodybuilding diet, which of course is high protein and maybe a low fat diet, okay? So there's all different types of diets, as we've talked about before, okay? Are diets safe? Well, we just did a video about that. Remember, diets are temporary because you only do the diet until you feel that you haven't advanced, or when you feel that all of a sudden it's not doing you as good as you think it's supposed to do for you. So oxalate dumping comes from when we cut out carbs, when we cut out plants that have oxalates in them. And what are oxalates? Remember, most people don't even understand what that term is. And I didn't even know what that meant either. I just thought that maybe we could make oxalates from having certain types of maybe hydrochloric acid, acetic acid, certain types of vinegars in our diet that cause calcium to turn into stone. But the truth of the matter is that oxalates are in many plants, and oxalates are, like I said, sort of an esoteric compound, is because if we only knew that spinach was loaded full of oxalates, if almonds were loaded full of oxalates, almond flour, almond powder, loaded full of oxalates, rhubarb, cacao, okay, cacao powder, most of the kales are, again, loaded with oxalates. What are oxalates? Remember, oxalates are sort of a weird compound because they accumulate in us a little bit at a time. And we really don't notice them until they start to possibly bother our gut wall with maybe the addition of maybe other plant compounds like lectins, and maybe whatever's living on the plant compounds like herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, different types of chemicals that are found on the plant and or sprayed on the plants. So, you know, we as omnivorous humans, we can look at ourselves as sort of like a scavenger. We can pretty much eat anything, but it's, you know, really, you got to look at the big picture here. Just about eat anything, but then again, we used to have seasons before, so if I was going to eat maybe Swiss chard and I was going to have maybe spinach, I would only go ahead and have them certain types of the year, okay? Or maybe starfruit, kiwi. These are all fruits that are loaded full of oxalates. Okay, I would have them seasonally. So I would eat some oxalates and I'd, well, stop eating them after the season went out. So oxalates accumulate in us. Like I said, this is a very unknown compound in the medical literature. We don't really talk about it unless you maybe get kidney stones, so you go on a low oxalate diet. And this is what I've been on right now, is a low oxalate diet. But what happens is when you stop putting in oxalates, your body wants to get rid of these compounds. These oxalates are in the form of crystals. They can be in the form of a calcium oxalate crystal, which is hard as stone, and those are kidney stones, gallstones, a lot of different irritants in our muscles, arteriosclerosis, atherosclerosis. They can go on any type of joint, these calcium oxalate crystals. And then you can get into other types of crystals, you know, potassium crystals, oxalate crystals. You can get into magnesium oxalate crystals, iron oxalate crystals. You can get into different types of crystals that can be soluble instead of the calcium oxalate crystals, which are insoluble, and they accumulate. So this is the problem. When we stop eating these crystals and we start, let's say you're going to do a carnivorous diet, because a lot of people are doing that right now, and that's what I'm doing. I've stopped eating the plants, the nuts, the seeds, the grains, the greens, and I'm just having, well, primarily animal products and fruit before I work out. So I'm going to work out right now, and I'm going to have some of these oranges that I have on the other side of my chair here. I'm going to have 2 oranges, and I'm going to use that carbohydrate. It's a low oxalate food. Remember, oranges are low oxalate. And so you have to really see, okay, I'm not going to put in oxalates in my body, so what is this idea about oxalate dumping? Is that what the keto flu is, when people go on a ketogenic type diet, and all of a sudden you not really eating these certain types of carbs? Because that's where most of these oxalates are found. They're found in the fruits, the nuts, the grains, the seeds, and the greens, mostly. A lot of different types of products that, well, they accumulate in us a little at a time. So when you stop eating these carbs, these oxalates, what happens is your body starts to offload them. So you're going to get, what do you think? You're going to get diarrhea. That's what I did for about maybe 3 weeks or so. Profuse diarrhea. It's coming out of you because the oxalates are coming out of you. You're starting to eat a different diet. A different biome starts to form in your gut wall and flora. It took me approximately about, I'd say, 3 to 4 months for my intestinal tract to start to feel like it was normal, to get thicker stools. Instead of just loosey-goosey stools, I started getting thicker stools. Now, your body goes on like an on switch when it starts unloading oxalates, and it'll shut them down, and you'll get maybe tighter stools. But once you start to offload oxalates again, and this is, remember again, kidney stones, gallstones, arteriosclerosis, atherosclerosis, these things form and accumulate in us a little bit at a time. The problem is they can unload a little quickly in us, and they'll cause us to get intestinal problems. You may get headaches. I noticed a lot of stuff coming out of my eyes. Noticed a lot of foam coming out of my urine. And these are the crystals that are coming out of your body. And the oxalate crystals look like very sharp shrouds on a microscope. They can look like diamonds. They can look like graphite crystals, they're called, which are like spears. And they can damage the tissues when they accumulate inside the cells, and also accumulate outside, like in the joints. They can accumulate in your gut. They can cause a lot of havoc in your body just because what they are is very sharp, and they accumulate. So when you stop putting them in your body, the oxalate dumping can last for years on and off. And this is a symptom that a lot of people will complain of. So I'm on my 8th month right now of a carnivorous diet, eating eggs, butter, cheese, and I'm talking about the good stuff. It's got to be, you know, again, uninfected food, because you could have meat, and that meat, just because you're on a carnivorous diet, it could be infected. And how is it infected? Well, if it's feedlot meat being fed grains, corn, wheat, soy, just anything that basically they feed the cattle, then they wind up getting sick meat because you've got mold in the meat. You've got mold actually in the grain, and the grain will go ahead and make estrogen. So this is a big problem. So anyways, getting back to oxalate dumping. Oxalate dumping is sort of scary, is because what happens is that you start to unload these crystals, and you may get headaches. Like I said, you may get eye irritation, you may get styes in your eyes. You may find out that now your joints are sore again, is because, well, maybe your hip arthritis, maybe your knee arthritis. Arthritis has to do with inflammation of the joint, and maybe that prostatitis or anything else that you have in your body with inflammation is now starting to unload some of these crystals. And why do they unload? Well, you stop eating them. That's one thing. And then you start to, well, have saturated fats in your diet. Saturated fats are some of the things that I was void of before. It's because I was eating a 99% vegetable diet, and so, or plant-based diet. So this is a problem in a lot of people, because what happens is that these oxalates will form on us a little bit at a time, so you have to watch out for it. And the diet that I'm on, remember, I would still be doing the plant-based diet. I just would be. I have a superfood company. And, you know, I wouldn't change a thing if I had to. But I had to because of the inflammatory reactions that I got in my joints. Okay, all of them pretty much. My back was killing me, stiffness, my joints, even my jaws from chewing. Anything realistically that I did, running, bike riding, weight training, just caused more irritation than it was doing me good. So I had some type of inflammatory reaction going on in my body. And I, of course, changed it up once I started to learn from, well, I started watching Dr. Paul Saladino's videos, and that's a good video channel for you to watch. Another good video channel to watch is Bart K, the science watchdog. Another good channel to watch is, let's see, Primal Health, Tristan. Again, there's many channels to go ahead and look into and just get their, well, you can get their perceptions, and or like Bobby's perspective. You can get their perspective on what's going on in their world, from changing over from plants to a carnivorous diet. Why did all these people do this? Is because they started having problems with their diet. Frank Ciufano, he's another guy that's doing carnivorous. There's lots of channels, like I said, to be able to look into, and you should look and see vegan deterioration. It's to be able to look and see what happens when you start malnourishing yourself over years and time. And so right now I've gained 22 pounds back. I'm about almost 150 pounds now. 149 pounds last night when I went ahead and tested on the scale. And I started this diet when I got down to a miserable 127 pounds. And that's not good at all. It's because I kept getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and weaker and feeling sick and also looking sick. So again, I've changed my diet. It's not for everybody, and the reason why you change your diet to something else is because it's not working for you. Now, all I can say is that this anabolic diet that I'm doing right now is something that you're going to have to do for about 6 months just to be able to feel the potency of this diet. You will go through ups and downs of this diet. You will, like I said, get oxalate dumping, and that's when you're starting to dump these crystals back into your body. You slowly accumulated them, and now you're going to dump them, and that's one of the things that you have to be careful about, is dumping too many too quick. Think of it this way: if you dumped all the crystals that you have accumulated over your lifetime, and let's say you're 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, you're starting to get stiffer and stiffer and stiffer as you see the 60 and 70-year-old people. I see a lot of people right now that are limping, even in their 30s. Their gait is stiff. Now, even standard American diet people, most of their diet's probably 75% plants. They're eating a lot of grains, they're eating a lot of greens, okay? They're eating a lot of pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides because they're not even worried about organic. They're just eating things that, well, at fast food restaurants, eating a lot of fake foods. Then you go to the vegetarian diet, and they're doing this type of diet again is because, well, they're maybe scared of getting heart disease because their doctor said that if you don't quit eating meat, well, eating toxic meat, then you're going to wind up getting some type of cardiovascular disease, which is the #1 disease there is right now, cardiovascular disease. But how do you get it? How do you get it? Is it just because you are eating meat, you're eating chicken McNuggets, you're having trans fatty acids, you're eating a bunch of synthetic chemicals? Maybe you're doing recreational chemicals too, smoking a lot of weed, maybe you're drinking a lot of alcohol, maybe you're just taking a lot of pharmaceuticals because your doctor put you on them, maybe you're taking statins, maybe you're all on these different you can call lifestyle stressors, just having a crummy, crappy job that you hate. And, you know, all these different pieces. Remember, these are epidemiological pointing studies where you fill out a survey and you go ahead and check off certain things, and you, well, see if you're part of the part of the program, okay, of people suffering, and of course of people becoming sick. So the best thing is, all I can tell you is that, you know, be careful when you're doing any of these vegetable type diets, because it's not just eating vegetables, and there's not that much nutrition in these vegetables that are bioavailable. We don't really know how bioavailable any of this stuff is. There are no real studies, okay, causal studies, effect studies, mechanistic studies in any of the diets that we do. Okay, we just don't know. All we know is that, you know, and people will argue over this, guys, there's not that many studies on anything because we haven't done them long enough. The standard American diet to the Mediterranean diet to the vegetarian diet to the fruitarian diet. They're just basically, a lot of them are themes of people trying certain things, and none of them are perfect. But then again, what is the most nutrient-dense food there is on this planet? Animal products, by far. And you can argue anything you want to, guys. You can go to eat a piece of kale or have a piece of liver. What do you think's more nutrient dense? Come on, guys. Anyways, I'm going into town. Oxalate dumping is something that may scare you a little bit. It's because you're going to get a lot of diarrhea. You're going to feel sometimes not so great, only because these oxalates basically are coming out of you way faster than they went in. And they do accumulate depending on your lifestyle. Going in the sauna helps reduce the oxalates out of your body. You can take even certain types of citrate vitamins, like potassium citrate, magnesium citrate, calcium citrates. You can take the citrates just in lemon juice. I've been doing a lemon juice tea every night, taking about maybe 2 lemons, and I squeeze them into my tea. So, you know, anytime I notice right now that I put in oxalates back in my body, one day it won't bother me. Like if I have some cacao, and cacao's loaded full of oxalates. I'll notice the first day, it doesn't really bother me, but if I eat cacao the second day, I start having a lot of problems with my intestinal tract. I start getting diarrhea again. On the third day, will start getting constipated, feeling like I have to go, but I really can't go. On the fourth day, well, now I've got blood in my stools again. Okay, why? It's because it's irritating my gut. My gut has not healed perfectly, but as long as I stay off all these irritative type of foods, and that goes for anything basically that's irritative, which are primarily the oxalates, the lectins, any grains, just any of these types of food products that really I know before, you know, were problematic with me. So all you can do is do a, well, I call it the ultimate elimination diet. You're eliminating everything out of your system because you have problems. And I'm on, like I said, meat, eggs, cheese, butter, okay, fish, which of course is flesh. And it just really has changed my inflammation in my joints for the better, because I have less. It's helped my gut wall flora massively to be able to quit having a dysbiosis, because that's a big problem, dysbiosis, in anybody that, well, is eating too many things that are irritating your gut. And you could be drinking certain things too, like coffee bothers my stomach a lot. Okay, and even though they say coffee's lower in oxalates, it still bothers my stomach. So whatever else is in coffee, it is bothering my stomach. So just to be able to heal your gut may take you a few years. And again, like I said, I've been on this plant-based diet for 15 years. And just listening to all of the anecdotal evidence from people changing their life for the better just by introducing meat back into their system and taking out plants out of their system. The only plants, like I said, I'm eating right now is a little bit of fruit before I work out. I did have a smoothie yesterday Mark made, and I had diarrhea all day. Too much sugar, whatever it was, and all it's telling you is my stomach is still not healed, and that's a problem. So I'm going to skip any of those smoothies. I had stomach bloating and gas all bloody day. All I can tell you is when I eat just flesh and have fruit by itself, okay, not mixed with any of the flesh I'm eating, by itself, just like right now. I had dinner last night about 8 o'clock, and it's about 11 o'clock right now, and I'm gonna have a couple oranges and go work out. So, can't find a parking spot here. Saturday morning, Hilo, everybody's out. Beautiful day outside. Okay, so anyways, guys, take care of yourselves, and if you do start to get a lot of dysbiosis in your gut, you may want to look into cutting out some of the oxalate high forming plants. It's because eating oxalates, okay, in time, for most people, and maybe not some people, but for most people, will definitely irritate your gut, will definitely start giving you problems, maybe with, like I'm having now, joint problems. And it's taken me many years for my body to be able to react to this, I mean, pretty heavy duty assault. That's all I can say. There's nothing worse than feeling crappy, you know, in your stomach. And then after years of not doing too good with my stomach, I started getting joint problems. Started getting all these other problems that go along with not being able to absorb your food. So that's when I started losing a lot of weight. And this is when I started to get sucked in. And you can see my body, my face, is not as sucked in as it was before. I've gained 22 plus pounds right now, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, that's it. We'll see you guys on the next video. Aloha. Okay, I gotta find a parking spot.